Welcome back to the channel USD Coins, Coin Collectors and Treasure Hunters. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or someone who just stumbled across a handful of old pennies in your attic, you're in for a fascinating journey today. Buckle up, because we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious, valuable, and talked about coins in American history, the 1944 Liberty 1-cent wheat penny. This isn't just another old coin with Lincoln's familiar profile. This specific penny, despite having a face value of only 1 cent, has stunned the world with its jaw-dropping value of over $3.3 million. Yes, you heard that right, $3.3 million for a single copper-colored cent. Now you may be wondering, how can such a small, seemingly ordinary coin command such a large fortune? The answer lies not in its composition or age alone, but in a fascinating tale of historical context, minting errors, metal shortages, and the quirks of wartime America. So settle in, because we're about to explore the long and winding story that elevates this tiny piece of metal into the upper echelons of coin collecting mythology. Let's begin by taking a trip back in time, to the year 1944. World War II was raging across the globe. The United States was fully involved in the war effort, and every aspect of civilian and industrial life was deeply affected by the ongoing conflict. Metal, in particular, was a critical resource. Copper, tin, steel, and other materials were being redirected from domestic use into the manufacturing of bullets, tanks, warplanes, and other military necessities. As a result, the U.S. Mint had to adjust the materials it used to produce coins, particularly the lowly 1-cent piece. In 1943, just 1 year prior to the fabled 1944 penny, the U.S. Mint produced pennies made out of steel coated with zinc. This change was implemented to save copper for the war effort. These so-called steel pennies are already well known among collectors and are relatively easy to identify because of their distinct silvery color and magnetic properties. But the transition wasn't entirely smooth. The zinc-coated steel coins rusted easily and confused people who often mistook them for dimes. Furthermore, they jammed vending machines. Public dissatisfaction was strong enough that the mint reverted back to using copper for the 1944 penny, and this is where things get interesting. The majority of 1944 pennies were indeed made from reused shell casings, copper-based material collected from military training grounds. These pennies have a distinctive appearance and were produced in huge quantities. More than 1 billion coins were struck across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. So what could make a 1944 penny worth millions? Enter the mystery of the error coins. Somewhere during the minting process, a few stray steel planchets from 1943 were never removed from the coin presses. As a result, a very small number of 1944 pennies were struck not on copper planchets, as they should have been, but on leftover steel planchets. These are now known as the 1944 steel wheat pennies, and they are among the rarest and most coveted error coins in all of numismatics, but not all error coins are created equal. What makes the $3.3 million 1944 Liberty 1-cent wheat penny stand apart from even other error coins is the combination of multiple unusual characteristics, unmistakable signs of minting anomalies, rare composition, unusual mint marks, and the historical circumstances of its creation. Only a handful of these coins are known to exist, and each one is slightly different. Some were minted in Philadelphia, while others may bear a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, making their provenance and characteristics critical to collectors and historians alike. Now let's delve into what makes this coin's errors so valuable. First off, there's the metal composition. The standard 1944 penny was made of bronze, a combination of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. However, the $1 million version was mistakenly struck on a steel planchet left over from 1943. This would have been a serious production oversight, given how meticulous the minting process usually is. These steel pennies from 1944 weigh slightly less than their bronze counterparts, and their silver-gray color is another immediate giveaway to trained eyes. But many of them went unnoticed in circulation for decades because their appearance didn't raise much suspicion among everyday users. Further contributing to their rarity is the fact that the U.S. Mint took great care to avoid these kinds of errors. The leftover steel blanks were supposed to be completely cleared out of the system before the new bronze blanks were fed into the coining machines. The presence of even a single steel planchet in a batch of bronze ones suggests a failure in quality control, and thus, a very low probability of occurrence. That makes each steel 1944 penny a statistical anomaly, a true outlier, but composition isn't the only error we need to talk about. There are also mint mark anomalies. Coins minted at the Denver Mint bear a D under the year, while those from San Francisco bear an S. Those from Philadelphia, the original mint, typically have no mint mark at all. Some error coins have doubled mint marks, off-center strikes, or other kinds of die errors that further increase their value. One known specimen even had a D that looked like it was struck twice, known as a double die mint mark. Another huge factor in determining rarity and value. Another layer to this story is authentication. For a coin to be worth millions, it has to be authenticated and graded by a reputable third party, such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC. These organizations use advanced techniques to verify that a coin is genuine, and they assign a grade based on its condition, from circulated to uncirculated, with uncirculated being the most valuable. A 1944 steel penny in mint condition with no scratches, no wear and tear, and perfect strike clarity is considered the holy grail, and yet, condition is not everything. Even a circulated steel 1944 penny can command astronomical sums if the coin is confirmed authentic. That's how rare and significant these coins are. But what makes this specific $3.3 million penny stand above the rest? It's a perfect storm of factors: an ultra-rare mint error, possibly from a specific mint, authenticated by top grading agencies, likely with an impeccable strike and minimal handling marks. Combine that with the feverish demand from collectors, historians, and even museums, and you've got yourself a multi-million-dollar coin. Let's also not forget the historical allure. Coins are time capsules, and the 1944 wheat penny tells a powerful story about wartime America. The reuse of shell casings to make everyday currency is a profound example of a country fully mobilized for war, where even pocket change carried the fingerprint of global conflict. The accidental inclusion of steel blanks in that year's mintage turns this already symbolic coin into a historical accident that echoes with unintended meaning. For collectors, owning one of these rare coins isn't just a financial investment, it's a piece of living history. Another theory that adds to the intrigue is the possibility of intentional error. Some experts speculate that mint workers may have knowingly created a few of these steel pennies in 1944, either as souvenirs or experiments. If this is true, then these coins might not be purely accidental but semi-intentional rarities, making them even more desirable to certain collectors. These theories are difficult to prove but add layers of mystery and speculation that drive interest and increase market value. Demand plays a huge role in determining a coin's value. The coin collecting community is a passionate and competitive one, with top-tier collectors constantly on the lookout for the rarest and most pristine examples. Auctions featuring a 1944 steel wheat penny draw intense bidding wars, often reaching 6 or 7 figures. In fact, it's not uncommon for multiple collectors to chase the same coin, each hoping to secure their place in numismatic history. This fierce competition further drives up prices. In addition to private collectors, institutions such as museums and historical societies are also interested in acquiring these coins. They recognize the educational and cultural significance of rare mint errors and are often willing to pay top dollar for a specimen that can help illustrate American history in a tangible way. For them, the $3.3 million price tag is an investment in preserving and showcasing an irreplaceable artifact. Let's now talk about the wheat design itself. The reverse side of the coin features two stylized wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, a design used from 1909 to 1958. While not rare in itself, this design is beloved by collectors for its elegance and simplicity. The wheat penny era is considered a golden age of American coinage by many numismatists. The 1944 wheat penny, particularly in its steel era variant, represents the end of an era and the resilience of a nation during wartime, and then there's the Lincoln portrait on the obverse, the longest-running portrait on any American coin. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Having Lincoln's image on a coin already gives it a level of patriotic reverence, and when that coin is connected to a historical anomaly like the 1944 steel penny, the reverence only deepens. Imagine finding one of these in your change. It's not just a coin, it's potentially life-changing. While the odds are astronomically low, stories continue to emerge of people discovering rare coins in forgotten jars, inherited boxes, or thrift store coin rolls. The dream of finding $1 million. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and mysterious coins in U.S. numismatic history, the 1946 Liberty 1-cent wheat penny, a coin that has stunned collectors and dealers alike by commanding a price tag of over $3.1 million in auctions and private sales. That's right, this humble 1-cent piece, with a face value that couldn't even buy a piece of gum today, has become a legend in the world of rare coins due to its errors, historical quirks, mint mark anomalies, and the sheer improbability of its existence. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin worth only a penny become worth millions? The answer is a mix of history, minting mistakes, incredibly rare circumstances, and the razor-sharp eyes of collectors who spend years hunting for that one in a billion find. So sit back, relax, and prepare to take a deep journey, and I mean deep, into every known detail, rumor, theory, and confirmed fact about this incredibly valuable 1946 wheat penny that's become a numismatic treasure. The story begins shortly after World War II. The year 1946 was a time of transition. Soldiers were returning home, industries were shifting from wartime production back to consumer goods, and the U.S. Mint was adjusting to peacetime operations. The penny at this time was being struck with a wheat reverse design, which had been introduced back in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. These coins, also called wheat cents or wheaties, were the everyday coins of America, passed from hand to hand without a second thought. They were made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighing 3.11 grams. But in rare cases, anomalies occurred during the minting process, leading to coins that should not have existed, and among these anomalies is the infamous 1946 Liberty penny. Let's look at why this particular penny, among billions minted in that year, stands out. It's important to understand that most 1946 wheat pennies are worth very little beyond their copper content and maybe a bit more if they're in uncirculated or proof condition. But in a few extremely rare cases, certain examples of the 1946 penny contain errors so unusual that they've attracted intense scrutiny. Chief among these is a type of error referred to as a transitional error, that is, a coin struck using materials or dies that were meant for a different year or minting process. There are reports of 1946 pennies being struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. For a bit of backstory, in 1943, due to wartime shortages of copper, the U.S. Mint produced pennies using zinc-coated steel. These steel cents are famously magnetic and lighter in color. After 1943, the Mint returned to the standard copper-based composition, but somehow, a few steel planchets were left behind in the Mint's machinery or storage bins and were mistakenly used in later years, including, incredibly, in 1946. These so-called wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable kinds of minting mistakes. Finding a 1946 penny struck on a 1943 steel planchet would be like winning the numismatic lottery. And that's exactly what appears to have happened in a tiny number of cases. Testing has confirmed that some 1946 pennies do not contain the copper content they should. Using X-ray fluorescence and other metallurgical testing methods, coin grading experts and authentication labs have confirmed that at least a few of these coins were struck using steel planchets that should have been destroyed after 1943. These rare coins not only look slightly different, they feel different, they weigh differently, about 2.7 grams instead of 3.11, and they even behave differently under a magnet. In the right hands, one of these coins can fetch prices in the millions, particularly if it's in mint or near mint condition and has been authenticated by third-party grading services, but that's not the only reason this penny is worth such a staggering amount. Mint mark anomalies also play a huge role. In 1946, pennies were minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a D; and San Francisco, marked with an S. Most of the rarer varieties come from the Denver and San Francisco mints due to lower production volumes compared to Philadelphia. However, sometimes the mint mark itself was punched in by hand, leading to potential misalignments, double strikes, or even complete errors like the absence or duplication of a mint mark. There are known 1946 D/S over mint marks, in which the die originally bore an S and was then repunched with a D. The result is a strange-looking mint mark that appears to contain both letters, a kind of mint mark hybrid. These over mint marks are a collector's dream and command very high premiums. Other varieties include double die errors, where the coin's image or text appears to be slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the hubbing process. The most famous double die in coin history is the 1955 penny, but 1946 has its share of minor and major double die varieties as well. In some cases, you can see doubling in the word "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or in the date, 1946, itself. These are incredibly subtle errors, but once confirmed by experts, they can catapult the value of a coin to hundreds of thousands or even millions, especially when combined with other errors like steel composition or mint mark anomalies. One of the reasons these coins are so hard to find, and so valuable when they are, is because many of these errors were caught and destroyed at the mint. But not all. Some coins escaped detection and entered circulation. It's possible that someone received one of these rare coins as change for a pack of gum and never noticed. Some may have been hoarded by mint workers or accidentally mixed into large batches and shipped out. Over the decades, most of these have probably been lost or destroyed, but a few survived, and now, collectors will pay enormous sums to get their hands on them. Another important aspect that contributes to the 1946 penny's mystique is its condition. A coin in heavily circulated, scratched, or worn condition is worth far less than one that has retained its original luster and sharp details. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin with no flaws visible under 5x magnification. The $3.1 million price tag wasn't for just any 1946 wheat penny, it was for a specimen in extraordinarily pristine condition, with rare errors, a perfect strike, and authentication from a top-tier grading service like PCGS or NGC. Add in a historical provenance, perhaps being once owned by a legendary collector or featured in an exhibit, and the coin's value increases even more. There's also the fascinating possibility of intentional or unauthorized minting. Throughout U.S. mint history, there have been cases where mint employees intentionally struck rare varieties or used leftover planchets in error, sometimes as a form of insider numismatic speculation, other times simply as a mistake. There's an ongoing debate in the coin community about whether some of these steel 1946 cents were truly accidental or deliberately struck for collectors in the know. If even partially true, that only adds to the coin's allure, giving it a sort of forbidden fruit status. The intrigue surrounding these coins doesn't stop with physical errors. The stories that have grown around them have reached almost mythical status. Tales of people finding them in old penny jars, tucked away in drawers for decades, or pulled from rolls purchased at estate sales, these stories fuel the hopes of everyday treasure hunters. Entire forums, YouTube channels, and online marketplaces are dedicated to discussing, analyzing, and searching for the next big error coin. Collectors are especially keen on finding unlisted varieties, that is, coins with errors so rare or new that they haven't even been cataloged yet. A coin that combines multiple errors, like a steel planchet, a double die, and an over mint mark, would be considered the holy grail of wheat pennies. And given that billions of pennies were minted over the decades, it's possible there are still undiscovered treasures out there just waiting to be found. The hunt for these coins has also driven innovation in coin detection and grading. Modern tools like microscopes, digital scales, spectral analyzers, and electromagnetic testing devices are all used by serious collectors and grading services to detect the telltale signs of a genuine rare penny. It's no longer just about looking at the coin with your eyes, now, it's about science and precision. Coins are evaluated with techniques that rival forensic investigations, all to determine whether they're authentic and if so, just how rare they truly are, but what makes the $3.1 million 1946 Liberty Wheat penny truly exceptional isn't just its composition or its errors, it's the story. It's the confluence of historical context, minting technology, post-war transitions, human error, and the enduring appeal of hidden value in plain sight. This coin represents the idea that even something as small and mundane as a penny can carry with it a rich tapestry of mystery, economics, history, and art. For those who inherit old coin collections from family members, or for metal detector hobbyists, the dream is always alive that one of these ultra-rare coins might be waiting in a forgotten box or buried beneath the soil. And that's what keeps the legend alive. The 1946 Liberty 1-cent wheat penny, especially the error varieties, has become more than a coin. It's a symbol of possibility. It's a reminder that history has layers, and that even the smallest artifact can become a window into a forgotten era. In numismatics, stories matter. Provenance matters. Rarity matters. And in the case of this coin, all those elements come t.